Okay, anybody else in the room? Yeah.
Keiko?
Keiko?
We're calling you out.
Okay, it's Sensei's turn.
Yeah, back to the one comment Mike made. The firm life do not feel is first of the five grave precepts. So it's in line with what you were saying. This is when you take that precept, or seriously, when that precept becomes real for you.
Yeah.
Then you don't squash the cockroach. You know, if you can help it, you try to protect life, no matter how disgusting it seems to be to you. And how much in competition we have with mankind. Humankind has a horrible, horrible relationship with the rest of the species. You know, we either kill them and eat them and mass factory farming, or it's just a god awful kind of situation. So we got a long way to go to actualize what this is talking about. But the backstory here is there's a bunch of monks living in the woods, and the trees were unhappy. Now, for trees to become unhappy because people are living there, there's got to be a lot of people. They started degrading the environment. So this is the first ecosystem kind of teaching, harmony with the environment is implied here. I would disagree. I push back a little bit on what you said, that they couldn't possibly know about invisible light. They couldn't possibly know that the greatest mass of biomass on Earth is invisible. They didn't know that. But invisible could have also meant you're not visible until your mother gives you birth, and then you become visible. So it could be that as well. But I think if you look at Sharingan Sutra, the 15 warning states, where Buddha talks about the ability of your mind to penetrate into your own body. In one case, he says you may see tapeworms. They knew what tapeworms were because they were infected with tapeworms, so they'd operate and pull a tapeworm out and everybody would see it.
Ooh.
But I think what he was talking about is the kinds of things we see in meditation, where you start seeing these organic kind of beings definitely moving their life, right? Whether it's your retina or whatever it happens to be. So I've seen those tapeworms, but they're more like synapses moving and flashing, So, and then he goes on to say that your mind can also penetrate objects outside of yourself. So you have to put the proviso in there. Yes, being visible and invisible. By definition, invisible, we cannot see in the ordinary way that we see objects. And when the seeing is turned internally, and he's saying you begin to see things like tapeworms. And I think tapeworm may have been the only familiar analog he could latch onto for the kinds of visions he had. Remember, he also saw demons, Mara, the demons.
Yeah.
So we have to imagine going out of your mind, where you have hallucinations, what we would term hallucinations. In Buddhism, there's no such thing as a hallucination. It's real. It's coming from somewhere. But our perception, conception, or sensation works on all different levels. It works on microscopic levels as well as macroscopic levels. And so I think you have to have a proviso there that they may have had, especially Buddha and the people who practice meditation, may have had these deep intuitions. They had the concept of the atom, which he explained, like, cut a cookie in half, and you cut the half in half, and so forth until you're down to the last. They'd ask Buddha, what happens when you cut the last particle of the cookie in half? He said, then you're right on the edge of form and emptiness.
Yeah.
So they had a kind of an intuitive, physical understanding, right? And I think they probably had a kind of very intuitive biological understanding.
Yeah.
And some of the lines that hit me in there, if you read through it again on your own, you'll notice there's kind of structures, as I think Alex Weatherby pointed out, one of you in the beginning, it's giving up selfish desires for yourself and your family, and that's establishing the foundation of true mind, or true metta, true. Right, establishing the foundation. There's another poem on establishing the foundations of mindfulness. So this is like, you can't really practice metta until you've gone through this part. Right? So
Mhm.
if you read it again, you'll find there's sort of stages where he's getting more and more kind of broadening and expanding it until you get to the end, which is never be reborn in the cycle of creation of suffering for ourselves and for others. He
Mhm.
doesn't say never be reborn. He's not denying the principle of rebirth. Saying you'll never be reborn in that same way,
Mhm.
in the same way that he was reborn into this birth, where we're in the cycle of creation of suffering for ourselves and for others.
Mhm.
Suggests the possibility that you can be reborn, and when people bring this up, the words are just working against you, because when you say you, the word you doesn't apply. There is no you to be reborn.
Right.
So if you consider the concept of rebirth, it's not like reincarnation where this person is reborn. Because there is a rebirth occasioned by this death, and the karmic causality and so forth that carries over conditions the rebirth. But it's not the same person. The one that dies is not the same as reborn. So you have to keep all that in mind when you try to see what he's saying here.
Mhm. Mhm.
Never again be reborn into the cycle of creation of suffering.
Mhm.
So it implies, for instance, reborn then as a bodhisattva, right? Because bodhisattva is coming into the cycle of creation of suffering.
Mhm.
The six realms, the hells and the heavens and so forth. The bodhisattva intentionally goes into hell to save people, right?
Yeah.
So you have to, this is what I'm trying to write a Dharma about. You have to imagine, what are the hells that are said to be self-created? Heavens and hells are self-created in Buddhism. So how do you go into hell? Well, if you get a close-up of Donald Trump's face, you can see.
Mm.
If you have a nightmare, you're opening a hell gate in your nightmare.
Mhm.
What you're afraid of, right? What you're running away from. And you may see demons, you may see things like that. That I don't really want to go there. That's not pleasant. I don't like that.
Mhm.
But that's the Dharma gate that we have to go through. So the demons now, we may not think of them the same way as, and when Dogen, not only was Buddha assailed by the hordes of Mara, denied of his enlightenment, he had to go through that. When Dogen came back from China, the one line that he chose not to translate from the Chinese Fukanza Zengi that he based it on was, "As the path grows higher, demons flourish."
Mhm.
So Carl Bielefeld thinks he chose not to translate that because he wanted all the good news. He wanted to encourage his students and make it all positive, right? So, and Japan may have had a different view of demons than China did. But if you think about it, and Gio Kennett Roshi talks about this in Mount Shasta Abbey, she went through the same kind of thing, being assailed by the hordes of Mara in her own experience. And she said she commanded them to return to their Buddha nature, and that sort of took care of it. So we want to look at our practice as being not really limited by what we think we know scientifically, not really being limited by what we think we know in terms of myth, fantasy, superstition. If you're literally going out of your mind when you're sitting in meditation, then you have to allow that kind of madness to manifest. And it manifests in the form of demons. And then he was seduced by the daughters of Mora, which are the sexual attraction. There's aversion and there's attraction. Both are demons. Both are they're all flip sides of the same coin. So I think that's the way we want to understand it, and not do what we do in psychology. And some of
I think
Buddhism
so
slides
too.
over in psychology. Say, that's just this. That's just your imagination. That's just like Scrooge when he confronted Marley, the ghost of Marley. He said, "Oh, you must be a piece of bad fish I ate." So, if we just try to explain it away, we're really avoiding the point. We're really avoiding the confrontation. You want to dive into it. So this kind of metaphor for the thing you least want, that's where you want to go.
Yeah. Thank you.
But it's an amazing piece. I mean, such a short, and that's one of the few. That's the only one I've ever seen the word love used in. And who knows what the original word in Sanskrit was?
It's the error of translation.
Is it an error, you think?
Yeah, as the word love should not be in there, not in Buddhism anyway. Buddhism does not use that word or believe in that word except in a defiled way.
You mean like
Loving
erotic love, not divine love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you see that word, usually they mean it in a negative connotation.
Yeah. It's
I
right.
like the interpretation of the two Alexes because it actually this sutra is seldom seen in Mahayana because of what he said. It's written more in the old Tarhan belief before the Bodhisattva path.
Right.
Okay.
So I also like what you said is this is not being nice because metta, being truly compassionate and loving kindness, require a lot of cultivation, a lot of wisdom,
Yeah.
a lot of strength, and a lot of courage.
The history of
And
Zen,
sometimes you do
compassion.
things might not even be nice if you want to be compassionate and love and having loving kindness.
Compassion also often looks like cruelty in the
Yeah.
history of Zen. So
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
Zen masters just beating the hell out of one.
And my understanding from my Chinese scriptural studies is that metta actually comes with two words, qibei. It actually goes together, not necessarily one before the other, but it kind of
What are the two?
compassionate. The word is qibei is compassionate and loving kindness goes together. That's forming metta. That's my understanding. It's a really nice
So
sutra.
how are we on time?
Thank you for sharing it with us.
We're just 4 minutes late.
We did not do the opening chant because we did the song. So do you want to do the closing? Let's go around one more time. See if anybody take hope. Anybody have anything? Which one? Anything else? Oh, one more point. Mike often says that people come here and say, I come here so I can be calmer. He says, good luck with that. It's not going to turn out that way.
I usually tell them it might be a while.
So I think the same thing applies here. We often think, people think, I don't know if we do, I don't know if I do, but people often, I think that when they practice Zen, then they're going to be compassionate.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
And be compassionate. And you have to say, really, good luck with that, because you can't just make that decision.
Yeah.
Right? That was the same point Mike is making. You have to come to some level of compassion for yourself with all your faults, and you know them better than anybody else, right?
Mhm.
So you can't be very forgiving of yourself because you know how bad you are. I can forgive everybody else because I don't know how bad they are. So there's a lot of work to be done, as Kido was making, main point she was making, I think, but it reminded me of what you often said about people hoping that Zen is some kind of magically going to, do the trick. It doesn't work out that way.
These are numberless, I vow to freedom. Delusions are inexhaustible, I vow to freedom. Gates are boundless, I vow to enter them. The way is unsurpassable, I vow to realize it. Beings are numberless, I vow to freedom. Delusions are inexhaustible, I vow to end them. Dark gates are boundless, I vow to enter them. The way is unsurpassable, I vow to realize it. Beings are numberless, I vow to freedom. Delusions are inexhaustible, I vow to end them. Dark gates are boundless, I vow to enter them. The way is unsurpassable, I vow to realize it.
Thank you, Kido-san. Wonderful talk.
Thank you.
Kido's been generous to come here, so I ask you to be generous to her. Please place down in the teacher's box for her. Take back to Oxford.
Oh, thank you.
I'll cover your expenses. If anybody's musical and they want to join in the musical aggravation or aggregation, I'm setting these settings here.